Hi, guys. Welcome to yet another episode of Let's Talk About Sex and Something. My name is Young Boss Karen, and for this week, we're going to be talking about sex and books. So, how do you like reading about sex from books? Do you enjoy reading about sex from books? This week, we're going to talk about sex and books. And I'm going to be inviting someone on the show because I don't really have a lot to say about this topic. So I'm going to share this screen with someone very, very special to me.
Thank you.
Okay, so welcome to the show, Wolf of No Street. Our topic right now is sex and books. And I've been trying to wrap my head around what exactly this topic is going to be about, exactly we're going to talk about, but
You could
I
just
don't know
freestyle.
yet. But let's just see how it goes. Let's just freestyle. So, what am I going to ask now?
I have I have a question.
Shoot.
Okay. So what was your first impression about sex, like through reading in a book?
The first encounter I ever had of something I considered sex, I told you I was very naive. I've told you I was very naive, was Romeo and Juliet. And funny enough, Romeo and Juliet did not have sex, but they kissed.
How?
And to me, that was as close as you could get to sex. And whenever I would tell my friends that I read Romeo and Juliet, it's like so something to keep on the down low, cause that was considered sexual content. But then when I had a real encounter of reading about sex, I was intrigued. And I found that, funny enough, it's quite addictive to a large extent. I got addicted to a point. A couple of years back, I spent enough time reading every single book written by Lisa Kleypas. I don't know if you've heard about Lisa Kleypas.
I don't know how.
She puts out sexual content well. Like if you can, you have to read her books. But she writes mostly contemporary, old school kind of settings and the plots and all. But the next person, I'm pretty sure you've heard about Nora Roberts.
Of course. She can
Yes.
be very
I
descriptive.
yes, she's not as good as Lisa Kleypas when it comes to being descriptive.
Yeah.
Eventually, I found Nora Roberts has this Irish thing going with her. If you notice, her books are mostly based on some place in Ireland or some place with um, a mystical story. So all her stories
Yeah.
have ghosts. I had to do some research on why that was, and it had to do with where she's from, and where she grew up.
Oh.
So she grew up in these Irish places where basically they believe in ghosts, and so she always, every single one of her books. Have you noticed?
I've only read a few. I don't even remember. It's been so long.
I have read so many of her books. I have followed up with so many series of Nora Roberts books
Wow.
that some of them from and the thing about the romance books is from the beginning you can tell the end. So it just
Yeah.
got boring at some point. And how about you? What was your first encounter?
I don't know if it was Danielle Steele or
Heard about it.
it was probably Danielle Steele. Yeah, she can be descriptive too. So she likes talking about sex. Yeah, and I read a few that I enjoyed, and I think I was almost a teenager. I wasn't a teenager then, like 11 years. I wasn't a teenager,
Oh,
but then puberty was already hitting. So when I read a book, you know, it made me
I
like
get I
yes.
totally get that. Totally
So
get that.
sex was this fantasy for me. Like anytime I read a book,
Yes.
It was so good. Like,
It was just romance, and a lot of people who mature and they have never had sex, but then they drown themselves in these books. They tend to
it's like
have
you
these
already have the experience.
ideas. They have gotten the full. They know more than you who has done it. Like they, they know everything. They know so much, and I think I was like that. So I had this idea as well in my head because I had read so many books.
Yeah.
Because once you start one, you just keep on going. I don't know about other people, but for me, it was like an addiction. I'll just looking for the
Yeah, it
next one.
was.
I read so many books with even low quality writing just because I wanted to see those descriptions. I wanted to just get something. It's like porn of the mind, you're
Yeah.
it's
But
really addictive.
for me, it wasn't all nice. Like, first, the first experience reading that it was okay, but then I read more books that started talking about rape,
Ah.
and then it got ugly.
Okay.
Sex wasn't so good anymore. Like, to me, like, I became grossed out by it.
It
So
came with, yeah.
yeah, and I think over the years, I find like reading about sex, descriptive sex in books, I find it
Yeah.
boring. Maybe because I've seen too much of it
Seen so much,
these
yes.
days.
You just know what to expect. You know the words they'll use. You know
Yeah,
the feel in your head. You already know exactly
yeah.
how it is for the person in your head.
Like, I already
That's
know
why
what sex is. You don't have to describe it anymore. I know
it's
the
not that
feeling,
deep.
okay?
It's not that deep.
Yeah. So now when I read these days, I just like skip through like, oh, yada yada yada. I don't want to read anymore. It bores me now.
True. True. I
And
don't think there's anything new anymore.
no,
There's nothing new about it anymore, I guess. Then
it feels
although
forced.
sorry?
I said it feels forced. Like some books I read. Okay, you read this book too. Nearly all the men in Lagos are mad by
Yes,
Damilare.
yes, I
That
did. I
book
read
was
that book.
nice. It was fun, but it was also annoying. Like sex everywhere. Like she was it felt like she was trying so hard to just put in sex in the
True.
story. Like it wasn't
And
necessary.
what what I liked about that was that the author was giving us it from different voices. Like it was not just
Yeah.
one voice that we got every information from. It was like different
But to me
experiences.
it sounded the same.
It did for
To me it
you.
sounded, yeah, the whole sex experience, like it was just the same thing.
Well, it was a book of short stories, so I can't quite recall everything. I've had this conversation a lot about this book, but until somebody starts mentioning the stories, I don't entirely remember.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember a couple of them. Like I remember the one where the lady was married to a guy and then he told her to have sex with a rich guy for money, and but he was not ready to work, something like that.
Yeah.
I remember a bunch of those kind of stories.
Yeah.
But I don't even think that lady even puts in sex in that book, as far as I'm concerned.
She tried to be descriptive, but I don't think it was
No,
working.
no. I think one person who doesn't put in sex that much, but is very, as we're talking about Nigerian authors, is very good with describing is Chimamanda. I have to
Um,
give that woman her
yeah.
credit every single time I get the chance. That lady can describe sex well. She's very descriptive with everything, but then
Yeah.
when she's describing sex, she's giving like it's like you're watching you're watching this thing while reading. I think in the book Half of a Yellow Sun, I can't remember the names of the people, but the way the lady had sex with her Kainene. Am I right? Kainene.
Yeah.
Olana. Kainene and Olana. Yes, when she was describing how Olana had sex with her husband, and then when Olana had sex with her sister's husband, all those descriptions were just epic.
And
You're
it wasn't
reading
like
text.
some fantasy
Yes, it wasn't
sex.
for fantasy. Yes, yes, you
It was
get that.
real.
It was more of for literature, if I could put it that way. It's more for loving literature than getting sexual pleasure. These other authors, they are known for sex. Chimamanda is not known for sex. Nora Roberts is
Yeah.
known for writing erotic. Nora Roberts is erotic. No, I wouldn't put her as erotic.
Not really.
She's not erotic. I think Lisa Kleypas is more erotic than her. Then, do you know who wrote Bridgerton? I can't quite recall. Did you read the book? I
I
didn't read
didn't.
the
I don't
book.
even like. I don't like the show, so I'm not interested.
Bridgerton is Lisa Kleypas kind of novel. That's why
Oh,
from the beginning of Bridgerton, I already knew, okay, this is how it's going to end. And they told me it's 4 seasons, and I'm like, okay, these are 4 siblings that are going to be involved in every single one of the seasons. And I just knew what Bridgerton was all about from the beginning
yeah.
to the end. Because I have consumed so much of Lisa Kleypas that I just know. I just know. Like I wouldn't even be surprised if Lisa Kleypas was involved in writing Bridgerton because it's all her, like the whole contemporary art, the whole old school make
Yeah.
believe and all that. That is Lisa Kleypas right there. And what
So,
else?
do you still enjoy books about sex?
No.
Very
Not
straightforward.
really. No, 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 I can't say I do. Although recently I've
Yeah.
been introduced to sex comics. Have you taken a look at those?
Not really.
They're no, not really. It's like it's comics, but you know how
I've
comics
seen
can
them, but I
exaggerate.
wasn't interested.
Yeah, they're very exaggerated and they're funny. To me, they're really funny because they're writing these things out in the way a person is saying them, but then it's just so hilarious because why are you stressing these words so much to prove a point? Well, I think that's the recent sexual literature I've tried to read, sex comics. But in general, right now, I still read them when I'm bored,
Yeah.
but I'm just not into it like the way I was
Yeah.
then. But you've never really been into sex literature and romance and all.
I liked romance, but then I got into like crime thrillers. And then the crime thrillers I read,
Alex
there are
Cross.
also like bits of romance and sex in them. So I was okay with just that little bit. But I find a book like a whole book just about romance, I find it boring.
True,
Like
true.
you can
So
just put
you
it
read
in there here and there.
did you ever read Alex Cross?
Ah, that's James Patterson. Yes, now
Yes.
you
Yeah, I think that
definitely
was
find
a
a
very
bit of
first.
romance and sex in it, but then it's not like
Yeah,
it's that's not what the whole story is about. It's just a bit of the story,
true.
and that's what I like. Yeah.
Alex Cross
I
was the
also
first I ever read thriller and a little bit of sex here and there, and I
okay.
really enjoyed it. Then I really enjoyed it. The
You
movie
know it's a
wrecked it for
series,
me.
right?
The movies wrecked it for me. Yeah, I know it's a series.
I've read a lot of Alex Cross series
I think I
and
read
all
only
his
only one.
escapades. Huh?
I read just one. I read just one. That it was, and I
Oh,
read it because it was a birthday present. The book was a birthday
okay.
present for my brother, so that was my first experience reading. I think I was like 13 then, 13 or 14.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed them, but yeah, I like it when it's just give me the sex most times. With mystery, give me mystery and thriller, but with sex, let's not mix things up.
As I got older, I got bored of like sex.
Sure.
And I think there was a time I tried like reading not fiction. I wanted to like read about sex, non-fiction. I was
Yeah.
so bored. Like I was reading about sex styles and it was so
Ah,
unrealistic. Like who has sex like this? Like is it possible?
I can understand that. Yeah, but if most times I just read for if I'm just reading something aside from a book and I want to read about sex, then I'm reading for information purposes, like not exactly sex, but just female issues and one thing or the other. And most times, yeah, it's they will always bring in the sex talk. because there's always sex talk involved with that.
Yeah.
Well, it's just for information purposes most times. Why am I googling things about sex styles? God,
No, I
no.
downloaded a book. I saw a book on the site and I
Grammatical.
downloaded it. It was so weird. I was reading about sex styles and all that. It was so unrealistic. Like, and people actually read that stuff and practice it.
Yes, yes. People watch the entire 2 hours of Kama Sutra.
Wow.
For what reason? But they do that. They do that. Well, yeah, I guess. So that's pretty much it with sex and books. There's so much. I don't know. I haven't seen any modern authors who are able to really capture sex in. I don't know because Nora Roberts' books are old. I don't think she has written anything very recent. At least last time I checked,
Huh?
I haven't seen any modern author that would give us something exceptional. Because I guess unfortunately the content doesn't change. It's
Yeah.
just what it is, and there's no improvement unless you want to give. Okay, like one I read recently where they talked about CM Owens, I believe that was the author. CM Owens, where he was like talking about a lady whose dad created a sex doll that was like a human. So that was it, bringing in a little bit of sci-fi,
Yeah.
just a little, but it was still just same old, same old. Well, I
Same
think
old
that
same.
if they're going to bring in modern sex content, then it should have to involve more of that. Let's see something new and make it sci-fi
Like
and futuristic.
consent. Talk about
Yes,
consent.
yes. Well, consent from a robot.
No, like not a robot. Like having like two people having sex and there's consent because I remember a lot of the books I read, romance novels, like there wasn't really consent. Like the guy just starts something and the naive girl just goes along with it. Like it's not like she was prepared already. Like she just, oh, I'm gonna give myself to this guy. Let me do it anyway. There wasn't really consent. Like they didn't talk about stuff like that in those books I read.
Mhm. Well, a
That's what I
lot of books
noticed.
I've seen a bunch of them. They would have females playing hard to get. I guess that's where the content comes in. She plays hard to get until she eats it. And I guess that's what they refer to as content for the most part. But yeah, I guess so. If there is going to be sex in books now, it should be more of informative than for pleasure. I guess that's what you mean.
Not really. Okay, maybe in a way, sure. For
Yeah,
fiction,
because
in a way.
if we're talking consent, and that means we're going to bring in a lot more things like what besides consent, what else has been trending? I mean, they'll just basically bring in sex education as a whole. So I guess.
Actually, because like I said, what I the stuff I read was actually like the guy wanting to starting things off. I never really saw books like the lady on her own, like, oh yeah, I want to have
True,
sex with this guy. I want this guy.
true, true,
It
true.
was always
Yeah, the
about
lady
the
wanting.
guy, the man wanting it and going after it, the woman giving herself. Like,
Yeah,
I want to read it. Tell me, like, as a woman, you want sex, you want to have sex with the guy, have sex with the guy. I want to see stuff like that.
we're turning the tables. We're going to turn the tables entirely. But I think have I read? I believe I've read something like that. I'm pretty certain I have. But then, let's be honest,
I
is
haven't.
that really realistic? I mean, is it that realistic? Do we have
It's
situations where the females chase after guys and they actually get the like? I mean, I
that
don't know.
that's a topic for another day. It's very
That's a
realistic.
topic for another day, really. That has to be a topic for another day. Because I mean, if I'm being realistic, well, anyway, topic for another day entirely. But me, I'd like to see more of sci-fi content and sex. I mean, Give me robots. Tell me they were having sex and they have both.
You won't see humans having sex with aliens. You want
You
stuff like that.
yes. Give
That'll
me
be
some.
fun.
Yes. Let's read something that is bizarre. Like
Two
they were
aliens
having
having
sex.
sex.
Yes. Yes. Robots and maybe the bolt comes off and just something crazy. Let's
Maybe
have
we should
AI.
write. Maybe we should write one.
I don't have such a crazy imagination. I don't have that. But I think I would like to see that. I think that's the next step for romance novels. Because there's nothing more they want to tell us. Give us
There's
something
something new.
real. Because what's recent? What is new? Nothing. We're looking at the future now. Automated AI and all those kind of things. The one I
But
read, this girl had an arm that was like she broke her hand. She had an amputated arm. Then her dad, who's a scientist, created an arm for her that was super strong, but then you could program it to give really nice blowjobs. So.
I want to read that book. Can I have that book, please?
But the problem is that the author is not much of a good writer. That was my problem with it. So the idea is there, but the author didn't put it out properly. So you're just giving us the basic, romance, basic usual erotic text and all that. But you're not putting these things just there as, sprinkles. They're not the main details.
Yeah.
If you get what I mean. Her robotic arm was not the main thing about the book, rather. It was not the main thing about the book. The father's sex toy was not the main thing about the book. If they made it the main thing, like the father comes home with, a robot and says, meet your new mom. That would have been dope. To me, that would have been dope. And then they now bring up something bizarre, like the robot gets pregnant. Let me see some crazy. That's the kind of thing I'm looking forward to. But maybe, who knows? I could write something like that. I could. I could. I mean, I have the
Try.
idea. I could
Yeah.
try it. See how that goes. But thanks. Thank you so much. I think you made this make more sense to me than I made sense to
Next time we'll have a more structured
Yes.
session of this.
But I like winging it as well. Anyway, that's my cue to leave. We've talked about a lot today, and as always, I love having you. Thank
Thank you
you.
for having me. Next
Bye.
time. Bye.